A mochi moment from Tara, who writes, "For years, all my doctor said was eat less and move more, which never worked. But you know what does? The simple eating tips from my nutritionist at Mochi. And after losing over 30 pounds, I can say you're not just another GLP-1 source. You're a life source." Thanks, Tara. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Tara is a Mochi member compensated for her story.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... There, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy, hoy, everybody, and welcome to Talk to the Audience, where this is always death. I am one of your hosts, Bob Mackey, hoping to join Al Jean in showrunner Valhalla. And who is here with me today, as always?
Still working on unlocking the 5 guns of Mo in Fortnite, Henry Gilbert.
And yes, welcome to Talk to the Audience. This is our community podcast. It launches at the end of the month on Patreon, the beginning of the month on the free feed. And in this podcast, we talk about what's happening in the Simpsons world, what's happening in our neck of the woods, and then we respond to your questions and comments from the last round of episodes. And there is a lot going on in terms of showrunners leaving, writers dying, and new episodes premiering. And did somebody say Fortnite crossovers?
I know. There's even more news than last month, I would say. And we already were talking about, boy, it's like no Simpsons news happens until the season premiere, basically. And then it's just like news all the time.
Now it's all the news. And by the way, I have come down with a slight case of vacation poisoning. So this is why I might sound a little huskier than normal. So we're going to keep pushing through this. And I am feeling a little bit better. So if you're wondering, what's wrong with Bob? Did he become like a grizzled detective or something? Is he trying to solve his own murder? Not yet.
It's funny, you came back from Japan, but not Osaka, so it can't be the Osaka flu, which I should have said is what I came down with when I came back.
Yes, Henry got the Osaka flu. It's true. It really happened. So yes, season 37 continues rolling out with some episodes that are good and bad. I will say Men Behaving Manly is not very good. I think most people did not like this episode. This one is about male influencers. It's very confused and also has like a very short plot about a world with just women that is very similar to the 1996 Duckman episode Exile in Guyville, although that episode is all about that, and this episode dedicates maybe 90 seconds to that premise. And Albert Brooks returns for the first time since season 32's Yokel Hero. Now, Henry, you're probably thinking the same thing I am. King of the Hill handled this much better in their recent episode about this same kind of idea, like the manliness camp. You know, going to the camp, seeing what being a man is all about, and then you find out there are ulterior motives behind these kind of things. Here, it seems like someone just saw the idea of one of these and thought, oh, what if Homer and Bart went to one? And they didn't really investigate anything more because based on what I watched, it's like, no, this camp, even though the Albert Brooks character is a little twisted, this camp was good for them. And it made them into better men. And like the wives were very happy with the results. It was a very strange conclusion here.
Yes, I thought of that Duckman episode too, just because it felt like the viewpoint of this was like Frozen from 30 years ago, because it didn't seem to understand what male influencers really are about. Like the King of the Hill episode did understand that the manosphere, despite even if on the surface they're like, no, men need to be helped. There's a male loneliness crisis. Let's talk to them. If you dig even just slightly beneath the exterior, you figure out most of them are all peddling the same blame women and blame the pussifying of society type stuff that comes through in that King of the Hill episode. But this definitely seems to take the side that Albert Brooks's character is mostly right. And also it definitely has a stance of like, kids today and their damn phones.
Yeah, this is written by a parent who's mad about all the screen time.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Albert Brooks is right. His character gets to be like right about the screen time. I mean, the best stuff in it to me was just the Albert Brooks riffing, which has nothing to do with like the writing in the episode. Like he was still funny in that.
It feels like the riffing got out of control, even though it was funny and they wanted to include a lot of it. So the plot is kind of aimless. I don't know. It's a very mixed up episode and it doesn't really understand what it's about. So I saw The Real Jims was also not a fan of this one. So it made me a little shaky about sitting down to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, about that episode, too, it comes right after the much better Manosphere related episode of Chalmers with the slug cream. That was a better
Yeah.
Manosphere episode.
That was like a male like health influencer kind of thing, which is different than the Manosphere, although I'm sure there's like, if you look at the Venn diagram, there is a crossover there.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's a difference between Joe Rogan and the people who advertise items on Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So that was Men Behaving Manly, and next was Bad Boys for Life, which is a landmark episode because it is the last episode that Al Jean show ran. He also wrote it, and it's a fitting one because it's a flashback that begins on the couch like so many of the others from his era, including Lisa Sachs, and has a lot to do with father-son issues about being left-handed. It drills back into that, a very early element of the show, and even includes a callback to Simpsons roasting on an open fire. So this is Al Jean's big farewell show, although he will still be with The Simpsons in a seemingly limited capacity as a consulting producer.
Yeah, and if you view it as the period on the end of the sentence of him being a showrunner for The Simpsons just solo for over 20 years, which is a ridiculous number. Like, he really shouldn't have been at that long. It is him framing all these things like, oh, it's a couch flashback, lots of grandpa jokes. Grandpa actually says he's a World War II vet, which this could be the last time that ever gets mentioned. And I do think at least Al Jean was coming to it from a personal standpoint, from reading interviews he did about it, that this is about his relationship with his father and who had passed away relatively recently, and a father that never understood him. And though it's also very dark, it's like, oh, is Bart a sociopath, basically, is what they're trying to figure out in the episode.
Yeah, we've been talking about Al Jean and the fate of his career on The Simpsons. It's just interesting to look back at how much of his life The Simpsons was, because he started on the show when he was like 29 in the first season, and then he was on it until he was like 33, and then he comes back when he's 40, and he's on it until he's 65, which is when he's leaving the show. So a huge part of his life. And I have to wonder, he did not disclose this is just speculation, did he do this of his own volition? He's getting older, show running is hard to do. When you are older, you have less energy for these things. Or is it Disney saying, we can only afford one person with more than 25 years worth of experience on the show, and that's going to be Matt Selman, because he is, 7 years younger than Al Jean?
Yeah, I think Al Jean, he is always very diplomatic. I think back to watching his Museum of Television interview I think I saw, which covers his whole career, and they asked him like, hey, Matt Groening took his name off of that Critic crossover episode, and Al Jean just goes like, well, you'd have to ask him why he did that. I don't know. So he's not a burn bridges type. Like, he's not Mike Reese. If this was Mike Reese in position, he'd say, yeah, Disney bought out my contract to save money, the cheap bastards. Like, that's what Mike Reese would be saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't get into Al Jean's head, unfortunately. So, but he seemed like one of those guys who would be with the show until he died, basically. I feel like there was no reason for him to leave. He seemed very comfortable there, and he seemed to just be part of the system for so long.
I feel like his limited, the co-show running thing, it seemed like just a slow exit over the years. The last 2 or 3 seasons, it seemed like he was sort of doing what they did when they had the mini room for the Critic year, or the second season of Critic, where it's like, okay, Al, you're in charge of these 4 or 6 episodes, and you'll run them, and you'll even write some of them probably to save money too. It's more like he has his own island there, the Al Jean island of episodes lately.
He was pretty jokey about it, because he said there were a few interviews with Al Jean about this event, and he said that he is basically joining showrunner Valhalla by being a consulting producer. He is going to be the old man in the corner who gets to pitch jokes once a week.
Right. Who can't, at the very least, can't now say, no, you have to do this stupid episode about a dumb thing I like. Al Jean, there was a malaise. He was there too long. That's just it.
We could say that The Simpsons was not designed for someone to run the show for 25 years. People have said on the record, former showrunners, you should do 2 years on The Simpsons. Mike Scully did 4, and that seemed kind of crazy at the time. But it should burn you out. I guess Al Jean found a system in which he could have stayed at the top for that long and not have the job destroy him in a way that it did originally, which is why he left the show and developed The Critic.
Yeah, I did like hearing him describe how he put in a callback to the first aired episode, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, when it hits Homer that him and Bart have a lot in common. He does a riff on the he's a loser, he's pathetic, he's a Simpson about Santa's Little Helper, which that was nice. There were heartwarming things in it, but it also was oh, this is a very old-fashioned episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, well, it was fun to see what Al Jean is going out on, and I guess the history of this episode is that the table read happened the day after Election Day, so it was not the best mood in which to read your final episode.
Yeah, I understand that too. It had to be pretty rough. And yeah, his exit interviews were fun. He was talking mostly nicely about it and reflecting on his time. Though I'll note when they ask like, oh, well, what's Matt Selman doing? Like, well, Matt Selman does like a co-showrunner thing, but you'd have to ask him how that works, which I don't know. To me, read as a tea leaf reader of Al Jean or as a would-be therapist of him, I'm like, oh, that's how he talks about a thing he doesn't like and is trying to say he thinks he wouldn't do it that way.
Well, he has said a few things on the record about the Critic reboot, which I guess he was trying to get off the ground in recent months. So this is a quote from a recent interview. He says, quote, I'll just say there's only really one hurdle. John is up for it. Marlies LaMarche is up for it. Mike Reese is too. I can't really say what the one hurdle is, but there's one thing standing in the way. I've done everything I can on my end to make it work. So more speculation time. What could this possibly be? Who could be the holdout on this process of getting the Critic off the ground again?
Well, you'll note that he doesn't say James L. Brooks in there. That's one name he does not say specifically, but it might not be Brooks. I mean, Brooks, why would he not want it to happen? It could be that, okay, here's the speculation I just came up with in my head, that perhaps because Gracie is one doing the Ella McKay movie with Disney and also the new Simpsons movie, that there is an exclusivity deal between Gracie and Disney, meaning Gracie could not produce a new Critic with Sony, the people who own the Critic. That's my new guess.
Yeah, that could be it. That sounds pretty likely. And also, you brought up the Simpsons movie. I don't think I heard anything about his involvement with the movie in these interviews about him leaving the show. Did you see anything about that? Like if he'd be part of the movie?
No, I didn't see that either, which you would, another of my speculation was, oh, this just frees him up to be in charge of the movie, which he was the guy in charge of. Well, I mean, James L. Brooks was the real guy in charge of the movie, thanks to all of his many crazy demands. But Al Jean was pretty much the executive producer of the movie, and he's been the guy in charge of the theatrical shorts since then. So I could see them just going like, oh, you can be the movie guy again, but maybe he is just like retiring. He is in his 60s. He could be a grandfather now for all we know. He might just not want to do it.
He's officially a senior citizen, for Christ's sake.
Yes. One, he sees friends, at the very least classmates like Dan McGrath passing away. Or maybe he sees all of Bill Oakley's fun travels around America eating garbage food, and Al Jean thinks like, that could be me.
Well, I guess he's been seeing Mike Reese's travels around the world for the past 30 years, too.
Yeah, that's right. He went to Japan around the same time we did. But I wonder, Al Jean also just seems like a homebody and also a guy who likes to work. So I don't know. It's at the very least, showrunner Valhalla means he'll be in there like for the rewrite or table read days, I guess, and then to offer his own jokes. Maybe Al Jean works better as just a one joke guy in the corner instead of a guy telling people what episodes to write.
It could be, yeah. I mean, this could be, not to throw shade on Al Jean, this could be a good thing for the show, just to have a change up in leadership. I'm not saying that as a joke or anything. I'm just saying, I like when showrunners change. They used to be a more common thing, And I did listen to a recent episode of Gayest Episode Ever where Drew Mackey reached out to Carolyn Omine for comments about an episode she wrote. And I'm just paraphrasing here. Please look up that episode. I believe it was about the Marge drag queen episode.
Yeah, the drag
Work
race
It?
episode. Yeah.
What was it called? Is it called Working Girl or something?
I think it's Working Girl, but
Okay.
with an E. Yes, I think so.
Now, I'm just paraphrasing this quote from Carolyn Omine. It is part of that interview, so check it out. But she had some very, through clenched teeth diplomatic things to say about Al Jean, where she talked about the script was very different, but Al Jean has a vision, and you have to get used to things not making it in the script when Al's in charge. It's just something you have to get used to. So maybe he had a little too much control over the show. I mean, he is the showrunner, but maybe he was being a little less open to differences of opinion, let's say.
Well, I mean, how many times just in the last 2 seasons we've covered have the commentary said there was a really different Act 3 and then it got changed? Like Al Jean especially, and even he seems to know on the commentaries, oh, this is a wacky Act 3. He seems to regret it later.
My idea is, just pluck 2 26-year-olds out of obscurity like Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein. Let them run the show for 2 years. Figure out what happens.
It at least seems like Matt Selman has just turned it into more of, he co-show runs episodes. Basically, he is the top guy, but he definitely seems to delegate more. Like Carolyn Omine co-show runs some episodes. Michael Price, I know, does. I think Tim Long. All of the other people in their 50s who have been there almost as long as Matt Selman, or even 60s, they're the ones who are sort of doing the show running that Gene wasn't doing. Like, and yeah, I definitely think Al Jean had too strong a hand when also he wasn't at his most creatively rich, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, we really think he does need Mike Reese in the room.
Yes, I think he needs Mike Reese. When he didn't have Mike Reese, like perhaps he lost the caustic wit around him who would say, "Nah, that sucks." Like, which
Yes.
Mike Reese is very good at that.
He is the non-diplomatic showrunner to Al Jean's very diplomatic showrunner.
And I wonder what it felt like for Al Jean to see multiple articles that were like, The Simpsons finally good again once Matt Selman takes over. Like, that probably hurt. He's a guy who says on commentaries he reads the internet too much. So it being in like the fucking New York Magazine, he can't have liked that. He can't.
No, especially after, as soon as he joins the show, he has to hear The Simpsons is bad for 25 years.
Yeah.
Rejoins the show in the year 2000, rather.
And then as soon as he's losing some power, they're like, hey, The Simpsons finally got good again. Like, what other message can you receive? And it's coming from mainstream journalists. Like, that has to hurt your feelings. But, if he sleeps on a pile of money, I can't feel too bad.
Yes, so farewell, Al Jean. We'll still see your name in the credits, and I'm sure we'll still note some of your jokes in future episodes. So moving on to other episodes beyond the final Al Jean one, we have Bart and Frink. Again, we have 800 episodes of The Simpsons. We have to eventually go back to the same title references. So we had Bart the Fink in season 7. Now we're up to Bart and Frink, which is very clever. The title points out what the episode's about. It teams up Bart and Professor Frink as a sort of a mentor, and we learn that, is Bart actually not stupid? Does he just want to not be held accountable when he fails? And we find out where Frink came from and how his inventions were stolen by this evil billionaire in the past.
It also is it feels like more people, this is just because I probably got diagnosed recently, but I feel like they're getting more autism coded with Frink instead of just general nerd. I specifically mean his invention in the episode is about reading facial expressions, which he has trouble with.
Yeah, and like the invention he creates, they even use the word neurodivergent when they're describing like the uses for it. So it's not like even subtext at that point.
Yeah. It's funny if for all the times Frink and Lisa have been friends, they figured out, oh, Frink and Bart, that could be fun. Like, and I like that when they visit a bunch of like evil billionaires, they are all evil. And like Lisa hates them, but also wants their academic support as well.
Yes. Yeah, it really is zeroing in on the type of evil billionaire who thinks they will become immortal, and they're doing everything they can to further that goal and just what that lifestyle entails.
The guests like Glenn Howerton was Peter Linz, who I viewed as a Peter Thiel type in that he is like a guy who stole everything from somebody, though he's not like an evil blood-stealing gay guy in the episode. And then Danny Pudi plays Johnson Bryans, who's also like I should have looked up that guy's name, the dude who steals his son's blood to live forever.
Yes, so I forget his name too, but his name could be Brian Johnson for all I know. This could be a very thinly veiled parody name.
You know what? If that is true, then good on whoever named him. And Glenn Howerton is great voice, and Danny Pudi, like, he's a great voice actor. I liked seeing them join The Simpsons, and it was a fine episode. It was my favorite of this batch of episodes.
Oh, by the way, I'm chuckling because I looked it up. The actual blood-stealing billionaire is Brian Johnson. So
well,
Johnson Bryans is the thinly veiled parody name. So credit to The Simpsons for doing that.
Then, hey, that moves it up a half star in my estimation then. So good on them for the Bart and Frink episode.
And lastly, we have Sashes to Sashes, where Bart runs for student government against Mayor Quimby's son. Mrs. Glick is killed for the second time in the show, very unceremoniously. And this episode is really about the Quimby family and Mayor Quimby's father as the kind of Joe Kennedy immigrant figure, how he built his legacy after moving over to America from Ireland.
Yeah, it's definitely a generational trauma story. You've got two generations of Gleasons doing the voices in it too. Brendan and Domhnall voicing. I believe Domhnall is Quimby the third and Quimby the first is the elder Gleason. But yeah, and then they also create a Marge aunt you've never heard of before too.
Yeah, they do. And then they play with the timeline even more, which they're screwing with us at this point. But they show Marge as a little girl in 1983 when you're thinking, okay, well, I know you've told me now that Marge is probably born in like 1985.
Yes, yeah. Now this one makes Marge slightly older than us instead
It makes
of
her like
younger.
50 now.
Yeah. But the idea that like the Bouviers almost married into the Quimby family, and also that like Diamond Joe was once a good politician who then, I would have thought Al Jean did showrun this one for the amount of Godfather 2 parody is in this too.
There are some dusty parodies here, which made me think Al Jean was responsible, but no, I guess he just rubbed off on some people at The Simpsons.
But boo on them killing Mrs. Glick for the second time in this one. That is the one thing I had to go online to complain about because it was getting headlines because it does like, oh, The Simpsons killed off somebody who's been around for 35 years. And yes, they just show you her like corpse right there. But one, they killed her in the 2011 episode Replaceable You, which is a crummy episode. And two, they mixed her up with Mrs. Fish. Like, that's bullshit.
It was a different weird elderly lady playing the organ in church, not Mrs. Glick.
Mrs. Glick would have none of the activity or like creativity to be in the church organist. Like, she only feeds people ribbon candy and shows off her candy dish. Like, that's all of it's candy related with her and withholding it. She is not the church organist. That bugged me too. I was just like, guys, if you want to get the headlines for killing off a character who's been around since season 2, do a little more research. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did a good job, for the most part, with the death of Larry.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
They had never killed Larry before, and they got his name right, at least as far as like a Wikipedia or the trading card will tell you.
So yeah, those were all the new episodes of The Simpsons since our last talk to the audience, and there is more news about upcoming episodes. So Fox made it official that the 800th episode and 801 will air on February 15th, and then the show will take another break in episodes like it did last year between February 12th and March 30th. So we're going to be dealing with a pretty sizable gap pretty soon, which makes our jobs a lot easier on Talk to the Audience.
Just like last time, it's to make room for airing Family Guy and now American Dad. But like I just saw it today that like Family Guy is getting another Christmas special original that's on Disney Plus and Hulu, which is really just code for we wrote a Christmas episode this season, but we're not airing during Christmas, so it's a Disney Plus original.
Yeah, Family Guy will air that same night with its 450th episode. So that'll be a big night for Family Guy. It's hard to think about that there being that much Family Guy.
450 Family Guys, and that's with them having lower episode orders than Simpsons some years and having like 4 years of nothing. Like, that's how much they're up to. Like, it is absurd that Family Guy is at 450 episodes.
And, American Dad will be airing the following week on the 22nd with its beginning of its new season. And you know what? I now have surrendered to Family Guy. I was in a hotel room in Portland in October. I might have talked about this. There was just a lot of Family Guy and Adult Swim, and I was watching it, and I thought, you know what? I'm okay with Family Guy. It's making me laugh. I buried the hatchet officially. I think I have, at least as of 10 years ago, but now I'm like, I can reliably laugh at some Family Guy stuff. It's fine. And the jokes have gotten a lot better than they were in the early aughts, I'll say.
Yeah.
When the reboot came back, it was just very ugly and mean-spirited, but now I'm watching it again. I'm like, okay, you were kind of changing with the time. I like what you're doing here.
I think they've updated themselves well. Perhaps the quality of American Dad finally shamed them into upping their game, which I am excited to see what returning Fox American Dad will be like, because they will have some content restrictions. They're going to be scaled back from the almost R-rated episodes they had on TBS back to the Fox level of filth.
Good old Fox filth. And so, yeah, just some news about season premieres and big milestones for The Simpsons, Family Guy, and American Dad. And yes, we mentioned Fortnite up front. Fortnite went huge into The Simpsons all month long, not only within the game, but also with multiple couch gags and some weekly promotional shorts on Disney+. Yes, advertorial shorts are back, baby. Weirdly enough, I could not find these on Disney+. I don't know where they are. And I Googled and nothing was helping me out, so I didn't watch the shorts. Am I becoming a boomer?
It also could be like legally they can't be in Canada or something, because on Disney Plus, they do start with a big thing that like, this is a promotional thing for the video game Fortnite. Like, it actually has like a warning that it's an ad and not just a short.
Oh yeah, maybe in Canada you cannot just present commercials as content. Maybe they still have not surrendered that.
Though also it could just be Disney Plus is very bad at showing you things, even major stuff like this. But yes, I mean, all the shorts are like, they're 3 to 5 minutes long, and they're just like, hey, this will be the new mode that comes this week. Oh, look, here's Professor Frink as Peely, the banana character from Fortnite I just learned the name of. So it's Frink as Peely or Peely as Frink. And these are things I didn't know before now about Fortnite.
I mean, I played Fortnite, but I didn't know this. It's really funny that on Al Jean's last episode it has a Fortnite couch gag.
Yes, that is. I mean, hey, he worked on so much advertorial stuff. It's fitting for his
It's only fair. Now, Henry, I assume you played this. I want to know what's going on here. Also, you have to admit how much money you spent on this DLC package.
Okay, well, first off, I will say I have not played it because I cannot play video games thanks to my broken wrist. Like, I can play things with one finger or turn-based things, but an active shooter like Fortnite, that I cannot do. But
now, Henry, I don't want to injure your wrist anymore, but you could potentially do mouse and keyboard because you could do WASD with your casted hand.
I could. Okay, you know what? Maybe I should try some WASD.
This is going to turn Henry into a PC gamer, everybody. I'm going to do this.
That's been your plan all along.
Yes. I engineered Henry's fall.
I will admit I have spent 80 fun bucks on it to get the characters, like just while they're available, like to at least get Evil Homer, for instance, and Marge as her witch self. It's full of good references, and my husband has also been nice enough to have played modes to unlock things for me.
Aww.
So that's been
now
very
that's
nice.
love.
Yes. So it is the closest thing to a real Simpsons video game. And same with like, there's the Lego mode is also very involved where that's where like, you're not going to meet Milhouse or Mr. Burns in the regular mode, but in Lego mode, you will meet them. And there's missions of like, go to the KBBL tower. And when you go in there, there's ads for, what was it? Jerry Rude and the Rude Crew. But it's like, oh, the Rude Crew has a poster on the wall in there. It's full of deep references and a lot of season ones even in there. Like Marge has a back bling of the Homer bowling ball in her birthday cake.
Okay, I do have to check some of this out before the season's over. I do want to note that people highlighted one odd thing about this Fortnite collection of content, if you want to call it that, in that the Simpsons theme was called Non-Union Version, and it was recorded in 2019, and people were like, is this a joke? Why is this like this? Well, people online did some light digging. They went to Disney's licensing site, and it turns out that Disney has a lot of non-union versions of their popular songs you can license for a cheaper fee than the ones recorded with union talent. So that is the story behind that, and I think there was enough controversy that they just deleted that from the track title.
They're still not paying a union for it,
No.
but it was worthy of a chuckle to just see like, oh, wow, somebody forgot to change the title and just were like, no, this is what Disney submitted to it, and I can't change the name of this. So it's called the Simpsons theme non-union re-record.
Yeah, a very perceptive person on Blue Sky reached out to me, and they were asking, oh, do you think this is because Disney bought The Simpsons in 2019 and they re-recorded the theme because they wanted their own version of it to license? And I thought, yes. And now I want to check the actual episodes to see, are they using the non-union version in new episodes?
You got to think, yeah, right, man. I think, or of the new ones we watched this month, how many even had the opening? They had their first couch gag, it felt like in forever this month, because it was a Fortnite ad.
Yeah, it seems like the Simpsons theme isn't cheap because you and I have talked about and covered a lot of Simpsons games in the past, and shockingly few of them actually bother to get the theme song.
Yes, Acclaim spent a lot to put it in the Bart versus the Space Mutants, and every game after that, they're like, we're not paying Danny Elfman anymore. Like, we're just going to have something that sounds a lot like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even Simpsons Hit and Run doesn't even use the theme.
I like that it at least exposed Disney being cheap as well and screwing people out of money. It's right up there with changing the Meep Meep to just one Meep.
Mm-hmm. That's what's going on with Fortnite. Check it out. And Nancy Cartwright seemed to cut short a Reddit AMA because of many questions about Scientology. Well, Nancy, when you go to Reddit, that's what people are going to do. That is the Reddit's mood. And hey, it's for a good cause, I guess, in this case. Although I'm surprised not enough questions about Sabrina Carpenter, her niece.
I couldn't find the AMA myself because I think it just got delisted. I should have digged a little more, but I follow several Simpsons Reddits and Simpsons shitpost and a few other ones. And multiple ones were posting jokes about like, there ain't no Nancy Cartwright AMA and there never was. And it was just because like she's trying to promote her new podcast and
Right.
You do AMAs, it makes sense, but she doesn't want to talk about being a Scientologist, and once you let people on Reddit know you don't want to talk about it, well, guess what they're going to ask you?
Yeah, I guess once you're one of the most prominent existing Scientologists, it's really hard to just do a public interview on Reddit. It goes with the territory.
Yeah, and it's like if she doesn't want to talk about it, she doesn't have to talk about being a Scientologist. I get it. I'm sure they've got a lot of dirt on her, but as is the point of that scam on a global level. But then just don't open up the floor to questions, Nancy Cartwright,
Yes, have them curated first and then answer them. That's the best way to go. And our final news item is not a happy one because another Simpsons writer has passed away. So a fond rest in peace to Dan McGrath. This was announced by his friend Bill Oakley on Twitter. So Dan came out of avant-garde theater. He actually worked with Breaking Bad's Dean Norris in his youth. And he started as a writer of SNL with sketches like Three-Legged Jeans, Frank Gannon, P.I.P.I. And for The Simpsons, he wrote Boy Scouts in the Hood, Bart of Darkness, and the Treehouse of Horror segments, The Devil and Homer Simpson, and Time and Punishment. He was briefly writing partners with Greg Daniels on those, and Time and Punishment is my favorite Treehouse of Horror segment, so this is hitting me extra hard.
Yeah, you have a original art poster for it, like that was a Bill Morrison piece.
Yeah, there was a VHS release of some of the Halloween segments, and Bill Morrison did the cover for that. I have the original art for it framed. I still need to hang it up, but I love that episode so dearly, and Dan McGrath, obviously, a huge part in the creation of that segment.
I also remember, too, he mentioned that he takes some credit for pitching, like, Who Needs the Quickie Mart, among other things from his time, that they were like, oh, this needs, like he said that Apu was singing his sad song, and he's like, oh, wait, it should be like a Rex Harrison style Dr. Dolittle talk song that he should do. And it grew from there.
So other credits include Mission Hill, including the famous Plan 9 for Mission Hill, or I Married a Gay Man from Outer Space. He worked on a lot of the back half of King of the Hill. We'll get to his episode starting in season 7. And also Gravity Falls, a lot of stuff. We interviewed him actually back in 2018, and we are putting that interview on the free feed for Talking Simpsons. So if you have not heard that, if you're not a patron, or if you are a patron and you joined after 2018, you might have missed it entirely. So check out the free feed. We are reposting that with some added context. And we think it could be the only Dan McGrath interview on record.
If there's another one out there, please direct us to it if you
Yes.
find it. Yeah, but he didn't give a lot of interviews. He's not on any Simpson commentaries. A big thank you to his friend Dan Graney and fellow Simpsons writer who, after we interviewed him, he then connected us with Dan McGrath to do an interview, chat with him. And his King of the Hills, like, I hadn't seen all of them in the late season, so I pulled them up. Like the truck driving Christmas episode, the trucker Christmas episode is such a great episode too. I love that one. You mentioned, I think you said Full Metal Dust Jacket was one of your favorites.
That is one of my favorites. It is an odd pair-up of Peggy and Dale, and it is so good, and I cannot wait to get to it. It will be a few years from now, obviously, with our podcast timeline, but looking forward to hitting the back half of King of the Hill.
Yeah, and his Plan 9 for Mission Hill is like my favorite episode of Mission Hill, one of my favorite episodes of TV. I have a copy of the table read script that Bill and Josh signed when they came to town, and I told them how important it is to me. So seeing Bill and Josh were both reflecting on it online, and they mentioned that McGrath was like their right-hand man on Mission Hill. Like he was like the Ken Keeler of Futurama was him on Mission Hill, and it's so unfortunate like Mission Hill didn't get a second season. Dan McGrath, he had 2 eras on Simpsons. It did seem like he didn't write any, but it seemed like he was around for some of the Bill and Josh stuff. I think he was back as a co-producer or something. He joked that he was fired from The Simpsons twice. I think was a joke he said.
Yeah, so a pretty big impact on the seasons that we love the most. So RIP to Dan McGrath. And again, please check out our interview with him if you're on the Patreon. It's been there for over 7 years. But if not, it will be on the free feed very soon. And it might already be there now, so check it out.
Morning, Zoe. Got donuts.
Jeff Bridges, why are you still living above our garage?
Well, I dig the mattress, and I want to be in a T-Mobile commercial like you. Teach me, Saldana.
Oh, no, I'm not really prepared. I couldn't possibly. At T-Mobile, get the new iPhone 17 Pro. On them, it's designed to be the most powerful iPhone yet and has the ultimate pro camera system.
Wow, impressive. Let me try. T-Mobile is the best place to get iPhone 17 Pro because they've got the best network.
Nice, Jeffrey.
You heard them. T-Mobile is the best place to get the new iPhone 17 Pro on us with eligible trade-in in any condition.
So, what are we having for lunch?
Dude, my work here is done.
24 monthly bill credits on experience beyond for well-qualified customers plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Credits ended. Balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Finance agreement iPhone 17 Pro 256 gigs $1,099.99 and new line minimum $100 plus a month plan with auto pay plus taxes and fees required. Best mobile network in the U.S. based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data 1H2025. Visit T-Mobile.com.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... There, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
So that is it for Simpsons News. Let's talk about our news by starting with our schedule. For the month of December, we are closing out 2025 already, and we are starting by talking about Tom Goes to the Mayor on What a Cartoon, the episode Rats Off to You, the Christmas episode. Rats Off to Ya. I should say it in the proper terminology. And I'm so into that episode that I was wearing my Rats Off to Ya t-shirt during the recording. Henry can vouch for me on this.
Yes, I stretched out our chat so long in the opening that Bob had to sit with his jacket on for like 45 minutes. I felt bad.
I was waiting for the grand reveal. But yes, we love Tom Goes to the Mayor. We covered it originally, I think over 6 years ago. So now we're returning to Jefferton, and this is a very, very funny Christmas episode. We're looking forward to you hearing this. We recorded it already. And for the Patreon, we have our normal miniseries episodes. If you're on the Patreon on the $5 feed, you will get Talking Futurama and Talking of the Hill. And Talking Futurama, weirdly enough, it is a Halloween episode just in time for Christmas. It is called Ghost of the Machines, and it poses the question, what if Bender was a ghost? What happens next? And what happens next is very funny.
It is a episode I underrated, I think, in my memory, but rewatching it, we had a good time rewatching that one.
And for Talking of the Hill, we're covering Rodeo Days, which is digging more into Bobby's comedy career. They're playing a little with that around this time in the show, and this is one of the first times he gets a comedic role. Hank thinks he's going to become a cowboy. Bobby wants to become a rodeo clown. The two are very at odds with each other on this, but it's a very funny episode.
Yeah, I think it's a Vitti one, right? It's another John Vitti up.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, it's a good one. Not related to Christmas at all. No. And our movie for the month of December for the What a Cartoon movie feed at the $10 level is My Neighbor Totoro. It has been quite a bit since we've done a Studio Ghibli movie, and this is one of the most memorable ones. It's in their damn logo, for Christ's sake. Mm-hmm. So we figured we would end out the year by covering this very crowd-pleasing film. And folks, this is the movie that really got me into anime, thanks to the late Roger Ebert. I'll talk all about that on the podcast, but this is a very fundamental part of my love of animation is sitting down and watching the Fox release of this movie in 1993.
Oh, yeah. I love My Neighbor Totoro as well, and I've been looking forward to chatting about it also because this year I went to both the Ghibli Museum and the Ghibli Park and also watched the short that's a sequel to Totoro that Miyazaki basically never makes sequels, but he did make that sequel. And so I've been just so Totoro brained this year that I was like, you know what, we got to cap it off by finally covering what I think is the most famous Ghibli film too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I'm also looking forward to checking out the new dub, which I've never heard.
Oh, yeah. Well, by new, it is like a 2006 or 7 dub, but it is a newer dub, yes. Yeah.
But this time around, Angelica doesn't play one of the kids. That's what I liked about the original dub.
Oh, my God. I forgot that. Wow.
Yeah, Cheryl Chase played, I think, the older girl in the original dub of Totoro.
Wow, so she's Satsuki. Well, the cast in the 2006 dub is there. There are a couple of stars they got in it as well.
And we have more What a Cartoon news and what I want to call Mea Culpa Corner. So right now, we are dragging a conference table in front of us. We are arranging 2 microphones. We're bowing deeply to tell you that an episode is being delayed due to Henry and I are becoming frail old men. I don't know if you've realized this, folks. You don't see us, you only hear our voices. Of course, our voices are becoming more haggard. But we have dealt with a lot of sickness and a lot of injury. So Henry went to Japan. He got vacation poisoning. And then he found out that he broke his wrist. He needed surgery. I went to Portland. I got vacation poisoning in Portland. I went to Japan. I got vacation poisoning while I was in Japan. And I got it when I came back from Japan. So we are falling apart.
Yes.
And because of that, we had to delay November's What a Cartoon movie. It will launch on December 12th on the Patreon and December 19th on the free feed. We're very sorry about this, but we could not possibly record it in time to launch at the end of November. And December's, of course, will launch when it normally should launch. We're just having to launch this a little bit later. And hey, it'll be closer to Christmas, so even more fun there. But again, we are aging horribly.
We were so far in advance to be ready for, like, both of us had planned trips, and we're like, oh yeah, we're like weeks and weeks ahead now. This will be totally fine. But we did not bake in as much time for like, oh, I need an extra week off back from being sick. And then it turns out my wrist is broken. So it was just like so many things just compiled on top of themselves to take. And we really appreciate the understanding of our listeners who know that, like, we don't delay things willy-nilly here.
Yeah. We try not to. This could be maybe the second or third thing we've ever delayed in 10 years of doing this show. So I'm pretty confident in that everyone will be understanding. But please understand that we tried to make this happen in time and we just couldn't. So look forward to our exploration of Christmas at Pee-wee's Playhouse a little bit closer to Christmas. And I'm looking forward to sitting down to record that. It's one of my favorite Christmas specials of all time.
Yeah, and hey, at least it's timely. You'll get to hear us talk about Christmas even closer to Christmas.
And that is it for our schedule. Now we could talk about what we've been playing and watching that's not necessarily related to our podcast. And for me, not a whole lot because I was in Japan for 2.5 weeks, but I can mention the fact that this game came out, I think, in 2020 or 2019, but everyone's telling me to play it. I finally sat down and played the first 15 hours of the game 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It's a vanillaware game, and it's a very interesting game. The reason I'm playing it is because I just played a lot of The 100 Line Last Defense Academy, and that game was inspired by 13 Sentinels. So I wanted to go back to the source material, or the inspiration rather, to see like, okay, why were they inspired? And it is a very interesting like visual novel / strategy game because on one level you have a story with 13 characters. You select which character story you want to see. When a chapter's over, you can keep seeing their story or you can jump to another character. There are certain locks that appear where you have to do certain character stories to progress in another character story. You have to fight certain battles to get to certain places. It's all very, very complicated, but essentially you are watching a story told to you piecemeal through 13 different perspectives all across a different timeline, and characters do time travel a lot. So it is a lot to take in. And it will take you about a dozen hours to really get a grasp on what's happening in the game. And at this point, I'm still a little unclear on a lot of the fundamental aspects of the story, but it's full of amazing cliffhangers. It has an interesting battle system that is very breezy. It's sort of like turn-based Geometry Wars is the best way I can describe it. It requires a lot of patience, I'll say. I really dig these games. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, but I am really enjoying 13 Sentinels, and I'm sad that it took me this long to get around to playing it. But that's the only game I've been playing. Played a lot of it on both flights. I've been playing a lot of it while being sick because it's very easy to watch / read a visual novel while you're lying on the couch.
Mm-hmm. I played a good chunk of 13 Sentinels during the lockdown, as I recall. I think of it as a lockdown game. And I really enjoy Vanillaware. I'm disappointed in myself. I've barely played Unicorn Overlord other than the demo. That is like, it's them making like a 13 Sentinels, but with Fire Emblem. And I'm like, man, why have I not played it? But
how much of it did you play? I'm just curious because I don't remember you talking about it. And it's like, you have to get to play so long to really fully understand, like, what is this story even about? And at this point, again, I'm not clear. I want to know if you played more than I have.
You know, I don't think I got farther in the story than you. I actually did have the imbalance of, I kept doing the story so I could have new missions to do because I was loving the strategy gameplay more than the visual novel. Though I was enjoying the visual novel, but it's like so intentionally obtuse. And I was just, as I was playing it, I was like, just knowing I'm going to have to like replay things like made me less engaged with the story. I know this will make sense like the third time I see the scene, but that's going to take a while. While meanwhile, I'm having a good time with the strategy like immediately.
Yeah, it takes a lot of patience. Like there's an in-game appendix you have to like cross-reference and like a timeline you create. It's very, very complicated, but if you're willing to like sit down with it for a very long time, it's totally rewarding. And it might be impossible to go back to at this point, Henry. Unfortunately, you will have to start over again.
You know, I should really just do Unicorn Overlord instead. I should be playing that one.
That game is always on sale, I'll tell you that much. It's very easy to get a copy for like $20. And it's like a visual novel. It is just them making their own Fire Emblem / Ogre battle with like regular RPG cinema scenes.
Yeah, I mean, more straightforward is probably better for me with it. I love that Vanillaware still gets to exist. Like, I feel like before Unicorn Overlord came out, they had one of those, similar to the Danganronpa creator. Like those interviews that are like, this will close if you don't buy it. Like
Yes.
they're almost holding their company hostage.
Yeah, it sounds like 13 Sentinels was the big all or nothing project that they always wanted to make. And even then they had to like cut a lot of what they planned, but I'm glad it exists and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So that's all I've been playing. I want to talk about a few things I've been watching. So I finally sat down and watched all 45 minutes of My Dinner with Skinner. And Henry, I think you'll really enjoy this because you just watched My Dinner with Andre. And this is a parody of that movie, but in the form of the Skinner and the Superintendent segment of 22 short films about Springfield. I don't want to give too much away. This is something else that requires a lot of patience because it is just a conversation between two men about the events that have happened to Skinner and Chalmers throughout the first 8 years of the show. But it shows a remarkable attention to detail, and it's definitely worth watching because it is the most thorough, I guess, shitpost, if you want to call it that, I've ever seen that's based on the steamed ham scene. It's totally worth it. It's on YouTube for free. You can log it on Letterboxd if you want when you're done watching it. It's completely worth it. Bill Oakley was singing its praises. That's why I looked it up.
Oh, man. No, I need to. Okay. Thank you for that. When you logged it, I made a note. I was like, oh, I should watch that. And I totally forgot. I have a flight coming. I'm downloading that on YouTube, and that's going to be some of my in-flight viewing for sure. Yes.
So another movie I watched in theaters was Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. And I mostly like this movie. I like his vision. I like his love of pathetic monsters. But unfortunately, a lot of this movie is the road to the Frankenstein factory. And, Frankenstein is such an iconic archetypal character. He is like the definition of hubris. We all understand what is going on with Frankenstein. But the first hour plus of the movie, I want to say, is the movie exploring what makes Dr. Frankenstein tick really. And it's everything you could just guess up front. I know about Frankenstein. It's a very obvious figure. We've understood this. He's been riffed on so many times. The story has been reinterpreted so many times. I did like this movie, but as I was watching it, some part of me was like, boy, I really want to see Edward Scissorhands again. Now that's a good Frankenstein movie.
I've seen mid-range stuff on it. I would have seen it in theaters if it was showing anywhere in Seattle area. It wasn't, so. And now it's been on Netflix, and I just haven't got around to clicking on it. I love Del Toro as an interviewer, as a body model for Death Stranding 1 and 2. I love all of those things. And Pinocchio was a great film of his. I just watched Blade 2 for the first time in forever, which he directed. And it also has a son going Daddy, why did you make me broken kind of thing. It's a recurring theme in his works, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was fun to watch. I did enjoy it, but it's a little too long for what it's trying to do. And again, I don't really, the character of Victor Frankenstein is not complex. Maybe he was at one point, but again, we've seen this idea so many times. We totally get the idea of Victor Frankenstein up front. There is no need for us to understand, what was his past like? Why is he obsessed with creating life, et cetera, et cetera?
How is Hollywood's new cutie pie, Jacob Elordi, in it?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mia Goth.
Oh, I guess she too is pretty big, isn't she?
I guess some people like women.
Right.
Jacob Elordi. No, he is great. Actually, Mia Goth is not very good in the movie. So I'm glad we're covering that. Jacob Elordi, great as a Frankenstein. Unlike the classic Frankenstein you're used to, he's a tall, lanky weirdo who eventually gets a big glow up towards the end. But yeah, I think Jacob Elordi is great in the film.
Awesome, man. I hope he resists the call to play Cyclops or whatever in some movie and just keeps making interesting movies instead.
And I do want to highlight one thing I've been watching on TV. It is the new Adult Swim show, Haha, You Clowns. And it is very different from your typical Adult Swim show because I love the mean, cruel, cynical shows like Smiling Friends and Aqua Teen Hunger Force and The Venture Brothers and all those. This is entirely different in that it is shockingly wholesome, but also very alienating and weird. But at the same time, it is super observational about normie culture and regular people and how awkward small talk is. It's a show that's kind of impossible to explain. I was reading an Adult Swim thread about it on Reddit, and people are just saying, well, how do I explain this show? And everyone is trying to come up with ways to explain it. Somebody said, it's about nothing happening at breakneck speed. Another person said, it's like King of the Hill if every character was Boomhauer. But ultimately, it is essentially like a parody of a TGIF sitcom, but in a very under a very weird Tim and Eric lens. It's about a very Tim Allen dad who is raising 3 large muscular sons. They have a very sweet but also very codependent relationship. and you think something dark is always on the brink of happening, but no, the show pulls you away from that. And I guess the edgy, cynical touch is, no, it's just wholesome, and the family loves each other, and that's all there is to it. Like, it is a feel-good show. A lot of people were comparing it to Joe Pera Talks to You. Is that the name of the show?
I love Joe Pera Talks to You. I was going to say, like, oh, that sounds a little like the Joe Pera series. I've been watching all of the new season of Smiling Friends, and Haha You Clowns is like sitting right next to it in the suggestions every time I watch one. I was like, man, I really should watch this or give it a try. But now your seal of approval, like, this is, I'm going to watch very soon.
It's not just the premise and the wholesomeness of the show. It like so accurately captures a lot of like awkward moments of real life. I don't want to give any away, but the creator is super observational about that kind of stuff. And more importantly, a lot of hilarious drawings and a lot of very hilarious voice acting. It's like just seeing an image of one of the sons makes me laugh. And that is the key to a great character design. Like we talk about Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, like the humor is baked into the design of the characters themselves and how they move and how they act. Big thumbs up for Haha You Clowns. I recommend everyone check it out. It is the exact opposite of, like I said, Rick and Morty or Smiling Friends. Shows I do like, but it's cool that Adult Swim is able to go in another direction and say, we're going to make something that's kind of sweet, but also very weird.
Mm-hmm. It can't all be like screaming cynicism all of the time.
Yeah. No one's secretly an alcoholic or a pedophile. No one is committing suicide. It's all wholesome stuff. And yes, other stuff. I went to Japan for 17 days. Now, if you want to know more, check out my Instagram feed, Real Bob Servo. I posted about like 20 to 40 episodes per day of what I was doing. And I don't want to make this into me showing you my slides on Talk to the Audience. But Henry, if you have any questions about what I've done, I'm sure you were following along as my wife and I were going to Japan, having fun, seeing all kinds of sights. A more chill vacation than the last couple of times we went. Only a few cities, not too many planned events.
I saw some cool pics from it, and it seemed like you guys did your share of shopping, but we're also you don't go full super otaku like I do on my trips. You're seeing a lot more cultural side. Though, okay, the Doraemon thing did look really cool of nerdy stuff there.
There's an exhibit for one of the creators of Doraemon. There were two creators. One is the more notable one who did more notable work. He passed away in the 90s, and there was an exhibit about his life and his work, and Nina grew up on Doraemon. It never really took off in the West. Like, people have tried to make it a thing in the West, but obviously like very huge in Japan. Wherever you go, you see Doraemon, the little blue robot cat from the future. He looks a little Garfield-y, but don't say that to Nina.
Yeah, right. That looked really cool. There's so many great, like I had such a good time seeing museums celebrating like classic comics there that you won't see. Like, you won't see that kind of celebration. Even like Peanuts doesn't get that kind of celebration in America all that often. So it's just nice to see those kind of museum presentations and treatment for stuff.
And I will say, so I do want to talk about an experience I've always wanted to have. I just thought of this now, something I do want to mention because it involves public nudity.
Oh, okay.
And that is, folks, I used an onsen for the first time. That is a public bath, very famous in Japan. You'll see them in your animes, you'll see them in your video games, but hey, they exist in real life. And we stayed at a hotel with an onsen, and on the final night, I finally got the guts to use it, and I will say it was a great experience, and I wish I would have done it more when I was there.
Man, okay, so you did. I still haven't done it myself either. Even the private, like, ryokan room that comes with its own private one that you don't have to share with other people, but this was the public bath, like you're communing with others in the bath area. Wow.
Silently, we're ships in the night. Yes, so you go in, obviously you take off your clothes, you're naked, but it's very clean. In the room with the onsen, there are like booths in which you shower, so you're expected to shower before you get in. So you're showering basically in public, but everybody is totally chill. No one's talking to you. No one's looking at you. I think they want to make sure you're cleaning your balls and your butthole though, before you get into that water everyone's sharing. Mm-hmm. But yes, you're just naked as hell. There are other men in there, and you get in and you just relax in the nice mineral water, and then you get out and go about your day. And it is so relaxing and so nice. After about minute 5, I stopped thinking like there are other people here and I'm naked.
Well, that's great. Next time, my husband and I have talked about it. I should do it well, and we don't have tattoos to worry about like you do.
Oh yeah, that's also, so I had to get like these basically rub-on tattoos to cover my rub-on stickers to cover my 2 tattoos. And the one on my leg came off very easily because I have hair on my legs, but my arms are hairless. Repeat, hairless. So the rub-on tattoo, flesh-colored tattoo was on my arm. Sorry, the rub-on flesh-colored sticker was on my arm for about 5 days before it finally came off in the shower. So yeah, I will say like totally worth it. And I've been naked among other men before in non-sexual situations. I was doing a lot of swimming this summer, except when I'm at the local public pool, I'm like, no part of me can touch the floor. This entire place is disgusting. But at the public onsen, like everything is clean. I feel so clean and not afraid to step around on things with my bare feet. So, like, I will say I was kind of a baby about this. I was like, every night I kept putting off, like, next night I'll do it. Next night I'll do it. And I did it on the final night. I was like, this was a really cool experience. And it was something basically you can really only do in Japan. I mean, other countries have public baths, but this was a very Japanese experience, and it was fun to have that cultural experience that was unrelated to like a video game or a cartoon or eating or shopping or things like that.
And I loved your shots of around the real life Kamurocho, Kabukicho, or do I have that backwards?
Oh, no,
which
you're right. You know, we went, so I'm going to ask you, Henry, have you ever gone into the Golden Guy district with all the little bars?
I've only walked through it a couple times, and well, because my husband is not a bar guy, so we don't explore bars too much in there. The last time I was there in Shinjuku this last year was we went to one bar that's like more in the main area, like across the street from Godzilla, basically.
Okay.
And we got to have the old school experience of smoking as we drank. And I was like, well, that's enough of that, is what I said.
I don't know. The occasional waft of cigarette smoke makes me nostalgic when I'm in Japan. I'm like, I haven't smelled this in so long. But yeah, we walked around it and took pictures. But honestly, the one thing Yakuza gets wrong is that area is filled with tourists and men asking tourists if they want a sex worker. So that kind of brings down the vibe. So Nina and I actually didn't do this time, but in the past we have loved to just like find a random building with 30 floors and find the one floor with like a tiny bar with 4 seats, go in there, see what's up. And that's always like a fulfilling experience, especially because she's fluent in Japanese. It's her first language. I have to basically do nothing. Although like you, Henry, this was one of the first times I was in Japan where I could like read everything and communicate on very basic terms. So that was extremely rewarding. Last time I could read about like 60% of text. Of course, I have not mastered kanji in any way, but if something is in hiragana and katakana, I can read it. And that was great. That was a great experience. It's like, I've unlocked so much now.
Yes, it does really make a difference of like engaging in the world there. Who'd have thought being able to read language or hear words would make you feel more in touch with people?
Pretty crazy.
Every time I saw your pics with a big Suntory highball, I was like, oh, I miss that. I miss that.
Yeah, so again, check out Real Bop Servo. And I do want to say that I'm super grateful that I get to do stuff like this. I didn't actually get any formal vacation days in my life until I was like 30. And then after that, not many more until we started the Patreon and we were able to lessen our workload and make more time for downtime. So taking vacations is still a very new thing for me. And I'm super grateful that we have an audience that supports us so we can take breaks, which was not the case when we were in the press and other jobs. So yes, thanks everybody for making this possible.
Yes, thank you all again for all our making it us able to take these trips. I like that the listeners like hearing about it too.
If you keep funding our trips, you'll hear more stories about me being naked in public. I promise you. Within a legal context, even.
You know, the day you left was when an Evangelion thing opened up. Fortunately, online friend, I've met him in person once, a nice guy, the Kyle Farm Boy in Japan. He went to it and had pictures of the whole thing, but there's like a big Evangelion 30th anniversary thing full of like tons of cells in Roppongi area of Tokyo.
We did see that as we were leaving. It's called All of Evangelion, and it was basically our last full days when it opened, and we were like, well, we didn't do any kind of like nerd cafes or nerd events. Let's see if we can get into this, and obviously no, you're not going to get it on the first day if you just hear about it the day before it happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's at least nice to know. Like, oh yeah, wait, I couldn't get into this anyway. If I got on a plane right now, I couldn't go to it anyway. And look, I've seen Evangelion cells. I've seen the drawings. I went to the Hideki Anno thing. I was at least very happy Farm Boy in Japan on Blue Sky shared amazing photos from it. Like they have multiple cells from the opening. They have the cell of Shinji crying in or slumped over in the chair, like right in front of you. It's just amazing to see.
Okay. Only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... There, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
So yeah, that was a great vacation, although I did get sick twice. My body is a playground for every sort of virus and bacteria that could exist. I don't know what's happening, folks. Maybe it's aging, maybe I'm just very unlucky, but as you can hear, I'm getting over my post-vacation sickness right now, and I feel like I'm at the tail end, so I will sound better in the future, I promise.
Well, for me this month, video games are very short because while I probably would have been playing some Fortnite or also some more of Ninja Gaiden 4, instead, it really is I can move my thumb and fingers, but to move it in a way that holds a controller hurts. My stitches hurt, so I kind of can only play one-handed games.
Now, Henry, I can't remember how much of this we've gone over on the last Talk to the Audience. On the last one, did you at that point know that you had broken your wrist in a way that required surgery?
No, I don't think I did, because I think I learned it right after. I learned it that it was broken and needed surgery the morning of Monday, which is when we recorded Bart of Darkness. So that's the only episode where I knew I had a broken wrist that would require surgery. Yes.
And I'm not sure if you've recounted the story on Talk to the Audience. Maybe you did it on Bart of Darkness. I can't remember.
Well, speaking of going to Japan, when I was in Osaka, we went to the Sky Building in Osaka, which I had been there before, and I wanted to show my husband in, and we had a nice time at it. You go to the top. It's a really tall building, and you see all of Osaka, and they have a little safety step to get up on a little platform, and to get out of the way of somebody else getting up there, I took a step backwards. Well, I missed the little safety step. I forgot it was there. And as I tripped, I spun around and put my hands up. And I thought, ooh, ouch, my wrist doesn't feel good. Is this a sprain or a break? And I look online and it's well, how swollen is it? And is there a lot of bruising? And can you move your wrist? And I was well, I can mostly move my wrist. And there's not much swelling by the next morning. Okay, I don't have a broken wrist. I don't need to go to a hospital, and we don't have to cancel anything. Let's go about it. And then I felt even better when I got home. I did go to my doctor. They gave me an x-ray, and his immediate thing was yeah, it's just a pretty bad sprain. I'll send the x-ray to a specialist, but I think it's just a sprain. A week later, I get a call. Actually, we think you need to go to a specialist. And then Monday morning, I see the specialist, and he's yeah, no, this one bone is broken. It will never heal correctly unless we cut you open and put a screw in there. And I was well, shit.
Henry, your body now has 2 screws in it. How do you feel about being a cyborg?
Yes, one is in the right side of my jaw and now my left hand. I worry at what point it'll be hard to go through security or metal detectors.
I will say that very unfortunate what happened, but you made my wife and I even more careful than we normally are in Japan with its very tiny steps, uneven steps, especially at shrines. And right after you fell and broke your wrist bone, 2 friends of ours were in Japan, and they fell respectively down a flight of stairs. So not the same flight. One fell down one flight, another fell down another flight. One of them skinned their knee really bad, tore up their knee. Another one dislocated their shoulder. So everyone is Mr. Beaning and Magooing their way through Japan. And we're we have to keep our balance. No backwards walking.
That's crazy. I wondered for me if it was sometimes I have general balance issues. I can trip around a little bit, but also was I jet lagged and just forgot something, or is also the stairs their safety stairs are different than America. So it's just my expectation of where my foot goes. I don't know, but man, I'm sorry for your friends. This is an epidemic of foreigner injuries.
Japan needs to apologize. That's what I'm saying. For their poor but frequent steps.
But yeah, so I have a bright green cast on it. A friend came to visit and offered, before I could even ask, and I was going to ask, to write Millpool on it. I should have come up to Bob so Bob could write Bob Pool on it. So it has made playing video games very hard. I have played a lot of Marvel Snap and also Magic Arena on my phone. Maybe I'll 100% Balatro soon on my phone.
Ooh, how close are you?
Honestly, very far from 100%, because Sungwon Cho talked about how it took him over 100 hours to get every possible thing you can get in the game, because a lot of it is just random chance of just you still haven't pulled this one Joker 8 times. It's well, but you haven't let me pull it 8 times. It's endless randomness.
And I will say, Henry, that was just one slip up. You have not yet been diagnosed with uncontrollable falling down.
Yes. It's now geriatric profanity disorder. I have that problem.
It's a battle every day. Damn it.
So instead, I watched a whole lot of movies. I'm not going to list them all. I did see Predator Badlands. That's the first of the new ones. I also saw Wicked for Good. It's not so There's a reason this is supposed to be one musical you see together. And one of the reasons is the best songs are in the first half, not so much the second half, I'd say. Though I won't spoil it for anybody who doesn't know Wicked or has seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, perhaps. And then Predator Badlands, I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. It was so very video gamey, though. Like, it's an escort mission, it's a stealth mission, and it's also like a video game where there's brutal death in it, but it's all robots, so that's why it's PG-13.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about it, mostly because the Predator series of movies has such a low batting average. If something is just like above average, it becomes like the second or third best Predator film.
I didn't like it as much as Prey. I liked Prey more, but Badlands is very good in that Elle Fanning, I think, she's the heart of the movie and does a very good job. And this is the second video game-like thing that involves escort missions and carrying something around that she's been in, because she's also tomorrow in Death Stranding too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
We both saw Chainsaw Man, the Reze arc. I think you talked about it last month.
Really great. My thoughts are recorded last month, but I really loved it. Almost just for the animation alone in the last hour of the film.
And I also watched John Candy, I Like Me, a documentary on him, which, knowing that it was produced by Ryan Reynolds, turned me off to it when I heard about it, but actually is like really great. It's testimonials from his family, his widow, and his children. Tons of footage of his life at home. So many wonderful stories about what a great creative partner he was. Other than Rick Moranis, I think they interview every living person who worked with John Candy that you would want to hear from. Even Bill Murray.
Well, I'm hearing a lot about John Candy lately because they're now deciding who will play Barf Jr. in Spaceballs 2.
Oh, have they not cast that yet?
Will it be Chris Candy, or will it be the big guy who gets cast in all the big guy roles? You know his name, Henry.
Paul Walter Hauser?
Yeah.
He's the new fat guy who's in everything, yes. He's taken all the roles from Mike Mitchell, who should be getting those. But yeah, John Candy's I Like Me is great. It made me then put in my 4K of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and check the almost an hour of extra footage they have in it. And I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is his best movie. I don't think that's a controversial take on it. And I also watched the Ozu film Late Spring. And I mention it just because, which is a perfect film about post-war family life in Japan that rips your heart out by the end of it. It starts very this is just regular people life, and by the end it tears your heart out. But I mention it too because on the Criterion Blu-ray is an extra movie. It is a documentary called Tokyo Ga by Wim Wenders, done in the early 80s, and it's him interviewing a few people who worked with Ozu, and it's about his love of Ozu's films, but it's also just him going around Japan and mostly Tokyo in 1983 and just filming regular life and going oh, this is what's interesting about Japan. And then Werner Herzog appears in it, and he's chatting with Werner Herzog in the Tokyo Tower observation deck. There's so many great moments in it.
Speaking of vendors, we love the movie Perfect Days, my wife and I, and we went to many of the iconic toilets and the place where they shot the photo for the poster of Perfect Days. So we did a kind of a Perfect Days tour while we were in Japan.
Yeah, that was what made me want to mention it too. I think, Bob, whether you watch the Late Spring or not on the Criterion channel, Tokyo Ga is on there. And I think especially your love of Perfect Days made me think you'd really also love this thing from 40 years earlier of him exploring Japan in the 80s. I mean, also too, it's just fun to see 80s Japan in HD.
Oh yeah, I'm adding this to my watch list. Thank you.
For TV shows, other than the new Smiling Friends season, which has been a lot of fun, I did want to give a thumbs up to the new season of Fiona and Cake. It stays a very good TV show. I'm actually liking it more than the first season. It's a very clever recasting in it. And also, it's secretly just the new season of Adventure Time because it continues stories from Adventure Time. But Fiona and Cake are having fun, sexy adventures. This is also redoing Adventure Time for an adult audience. They say shit in it. They have sex in it. It is a grown-up. It's an actual show for grown-ups instead of just a children's show that grown-ups can enjoy.
Okay, I didn't know about that aspect of the show.
Yeah. So it's all the stuff you love about Adventure Time, except it is now specifically for adults because they've identified that if you grew up watching Adventure Time, you're in your late 20s now. You're ready to watch it. I don't think I've gotten yet to the episode. Rebecca Sugar hasn't said which episode, but they did storyboarding and then writing for one of the episodes this season. So I'm looking forward to that too. And I finally watched all of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I had not watched the whole thing, and now I finally have.
I did that during COVID with my wife, and like a lot of people were like, "Oh, wait till you get to the third book. It's so dark and violent." And so the third book is the last one, right?
Yeah. The Fire Nation one, yes.
I mean, I enjoyed the series as a whole, but the third book was kind of a letdown because you can definitely see, like, okay, this is as dark as Nickelodeon will allow this to get in, like, 2008. I can kind of see them pushing against the barriers when those were not as apparent with the lighter, earlier stuff. So I just felt like that was kind of hanging over that third book for me.
They talk around death. You like go to a prisoner of war camp. You have failed invasions and dead relatives. And like, I can see how it is definitely dark as Nickelodeon would let them make it. What I liked the third book as well. I think the second book is my favorite. My favorite thing in the third book was they got so inside and meta, like characters would just say like, "Hey, I deserve an episode with Zuko," or whatever. Like especially the actors episode. That was basically just live fanfic they put on the screen. I didn't have everything spoiled for me for the show, but since I knew that Dave Filoni had worked on the first 2 seasons, the Mr. Star Wars, I kept saying like, "Oh, I know what's going to happen with this character because this is the arc of this other character in The Empire Strikes Back," or "This is what happens in The Return of the Jedi." Like, there's a lot of easy Star Wars connections you can make in it. And yes, broke my wrist. It's feeling better. Don't let anybody tell you having a metal pin in your palm feels great, because it doesn't feel great. It mostly doesn't feel good. It's not getting in my way of having a fun family, just a week in New York City for visiting my husband's family, and also a friend of his is getting married. A Black Friday wedding. So going to a Black Friday wedding. That's in New Jersey, but we're mainly staying in Manhattan. We're going to explore Brooklyn some too. So you'll hear a little bit of New York City fun the next time.
It looks like the weather's going to be pretty mild then, so you won't have to worry about ice and snow.
Thank goodness. Though, one downside, it's nice to go there to see his friends and family during Thanksgiving and have like a proper like family Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, we have so many pod friends who live in New York City, but when I reached out to all of them, they're like, "Well, yeah, we're visiting people outside of New York City at Thanksgiving. So I'd love to see the We Hate Movies guys when I'm there. Like you got to hang with them in New York, but unfortunately, all of them are somewhere else."
Yes, that's the unfortunate thing about Thanksgiving. Everyone just flees for the most part.
Yes. It's just like the Home for the Holidays song where it's just like, "Pennsylvania folks are traveling down to Dixie Sunny Shore." Like, it's people are trading where they go. Yeah.
Personally, I love living in a big city that empties out around Thanksgiving and Christmas because it's like you own the place.
Bob, how are you going to celebrate Thanksgiving? And will you force American Thanksgiving on your friends there?
Oh, I already have in the past. They have a Canadian Thanksgiving. It's not real. It takes place in October. It's fake. It's made up. Check your sources, people. But I like the idea of Thanksgiving. I have memories of it being like the one time of the year I would get a break back in the past. So a lot of nostalgia there. So I usually am like, what is the dominant fake turkey brand this year? Let me grab that. And potatoes and stuffing and all the good stuff and a nice bottle of wine. So I do like Thanksgiving and, watching Mystery Science Theater or just like a day of rest. Although every day is Turkey Day because Shout Factory has been like a 24-hour Mystery Science Theater stream for the past like couple of years. So maybe not as special anymore.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll have any news or announcements will they give a Kickstarter another shot? Have they figured out money-wise how to make it work? I wonder, MST. That was my month as well.
Now it's time for comments and questions for Talking Simpsons, and we're going to start by talking about secrets of a successful marriage. And Tyler M. says, "I did about a decade of adjunct work teaching history at a community college that also offered summer adult education courses like in this episode. I can confirm that killing 90 minutes was difficult, but I also found time to show Mother Simpson in the Red Dwarf episode where they interrupt the JFK assassination in my History of the 60s course. I was in my mid-20s at the time and decided to wear the coats with the patches on the shoulders because I thought it would be funny. Like Bob, I too didn't get that desired chili pepper on Rate My Professor." Thanks for writing in, Tyler M. For the record, the things I showed in my class, the movie Network and the Simpsons episodes, the Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie Show and Homer Badman. That was part of my syllabus.
Nice. And I'm guessing that chili pepper on Rate My Professor is to say that you find this is an attractive professor, like the teacher looks good.
I think I had an entry on that site at one point. No one reviewed me, and I was not found hot in any way, so I had to retire.
They're lost. I remember that Red Dwarf JFK episode. That was a good one. They always do well with a time loop episode.
Yeah, I actually just got to that one within the past year. I'd never seen it before. It reminds me a lot of the American Dad episode where he has to make sure Reagan is shot.
Oh, yeah. Wait, was that the Christmas episode we covered?
I
Did we
believe
do
so,
that one?
yes. But it's
Wow.
like, you think it's good that JFK doesn't get shot, but it leads to like bad things ahead. So they have to go back in time and make sure it actually happens. It's very, very fun.
Yeah, that's the first one of the season 7, right? Of their return, or series 7. Apologies, series.
Up next, we have Syndication, The Sweetest Plum. That was our fun little syndication special we did with the Found Footage Festival guys. And Jonathan says, I find press release kits really interesting. I recently picked one up from the Mask of the Phantasm, which had 2 lengthy pieces of ad copy and lists the people who worked on it and a few black and white photo prints of scenes in the movie. Was very reasonably priced, but they can get very expensive depending on the movie. I wouldn't think press kits would be made specifically for syndication of an existing show, but I guess a network would need to have something to use to promote it. There must be so many of those kits out there, given how widely syndicated The Simpsons was/is. Very cool thing to bring up. And yeah, I totally forgot that Henry was showing that off on camera until I saw this comment. We recorded that one a while ago.
Yes, yeah. I still have it right over here. It's a very nice folder of things. I am actually using it to save. I remember now I also put some medical documents in there. Like after I got him back from my doctor, I was like, the wrist surgery, I was like, I should just put him in here. But yes.
It's a multi-purpose folder.
I was thinking about that press release as well recently, because on our Pals Gayest Episode Ever, on their Fox Files, Drew did a big history on Fox just as a network and how it slipped through a lot of the cracks contractually that were holding back other networks, and in general worsened the business of television. It gave great extra context to like, oh, that's part of the scam that they also were running on The Simpsons syndication around the same time. It all fits in a bigger picture.
It's all a shell game against the FCC.
And now the FCC is perfectly willing to work along with them. But back then, they needed to try a little harder. Brian Benelli says, oh, and by the way, lots of people, there are so many great comments in there. I couldn't collect them all, obviously, but there just were many similar ones of people going like, oh, I remember my Simpsons reruns run at this time, or I watched them on this channel, or some people who lived like near the Canada-America border could see the Canadian reruns and then the Simpsons reruns in the US, and so they'd get like 2 hours or more. There were lots of great stories there. Though Brian Benelli says, the cut for syndication joke that bothered me the most was Kirk's arm getting sliced off in Realty Bites. Not only was it the funniest joke of the episode, in my opinion, but there is also a visual callback to it later that was not cut. Drove me nuts. The best and possibly only meta joke that the show made about these cut gags is from 138th Episode Spectacular, where Troy McClure promises to show old favorites that you won't see in syndication, with a tease of the clip of Itchy and Scratchy fighting Hitler. Yet it never actually plays any such clips, presumably leaving folks who only watched this episode in syndication to think that they were once again cut from the broadcast.
Boy, I never thought of that. That is actually not a segment on that clip show.
I wish I'd have thought of that when doing the history of like, oh yeah, that was the show referring to the cuts in syndication that were bothering the producers of the show.
I guess in that moment, they are showing you the Itchy and Scratchy fighting Hitler clip. They're presenting it to you, but that's basically it.
Yeah, I wonder how much Hitler scenes will get cut for syndication in the softer, earlier hours of the day.
So up next, we have Treehouse of Horror 15, and Philip says, all last month on Disney Plus, the live channel for The Simpsons was Treehouse of Horror, just cycling through the 35 of them or whatever. Somehow, all month long, whenever my kid wanted to watch it, he always wanted to watch the live feed. And no matter what time of day, it always ended up being the same couple of them, and this episode was one of them. So I ended up seeing this episode a dozen times in the last month, and very few of the other ones. Well, I'm sorry, Philip, but at the very least, you got to hear Standing Tall a lot. That's a nice concession, I think.
I guess you could only hear it more if you were watching a live stream of Perfect Strangers, which Disney Plus could do, because I would assume that was one they own. Or could it be a Laura Mar Warner one?
I think they're all Warner Brothers, even though they aired on ABC. I remember seeing the Warner Brothers logo at the end of all of those Miller Boyette productions.
Oh, that's right. It is where Family Matters lives as well, in Warnertown. So yeah, that's right. That's so funny that every time your child wanted to watch the live stream of Simpsons, that it would just happen to be this or another like episode, and you're not seeing the classics. I wish they just had a stream channel of the first 10 years. I wish they would do that, but that would be admitting defeat, I think.
This is when you have to pull your I'm the parent card.
No, we're going straight to season 5 and watching that one right now.
When you're 18, you can watch the stream.
Ian Stratton says on that same episode, I had no idea that Spike Lee's production company, 40 Acres and a Mule, Filmworks, is actually a reference to the Mark 7 Limited's logo. I was wondering what Spike Lee had to do with all the Perfect Strangers parody. Yes, the same clanging sound.
Yeah, ding, ding, that sound. And yeah, I was watching a lot of Smiling Friends and Haha You Clowns. You can hear that with the William Street logo.
Right.
Before you hear go or whatever they say afterwards.
I saw Highest to Lowest in theaters. I totally forgot that also, the Mark 7 production thing is a cute Gen X-y reference that Spike Lee also puts in all of his films.
So up next, we have questions and comments for the What a Cartoon episode about Hollywood Dog, a very fun one-off pilot that we were happy to horrify all of you with. And I'm glad everyone really enjoyed that episode. And TL says, the Ralph Bakshi pilot you guys mentioned is Houndtown. It does exist, as it has been uploaded to YouTube. It's very pretty and much raunchier than the New Adventures of Mighty Mouse, even though it looks like a more polished version of that show. Like HD, high production value for something that didn't have a lot of potential. So yes, I am unaware of Houndtown, but it's interesting to see all of these strange projects that were emerging from the muck around the time of the success of The Simpsons, some happening in parallel with the creation of the show.
Yeah, it's funny how the timing worked out of that first Roger Rabbit gets the ball rolling and and then The Simpsons keeps the momentum going and then keeps continuing with Nicktoons and Beavis and Butthead. And then it just kind of stops for a while until King of the Hill comes around, really, and South Park. King of the Hill and South Park get it rolling once more. Meanwhile, Michael Bentley says, newspapers.com has an archive of LA Weekly with a lot of Hollywood Dog comics from the 80s in there. I didn't go on the Facebook page to compare, but of the 20 or so from LA Weekly that I read, they're basically all terrible. Patreon comments don't let me embed images, but I shared a few on the Talking Simpsons Discord. Recurring motifs include the Hollywood Dog sitting in a chair, reacting to something on television, or being too lazy to swat a fly. It's basically an alt comic version of Garfield without an understanding of what a joke is. Then, interestingly, on the August 3rd, 1989 issue has a bunch of readers angry that Hollywood Dog went away. One reader specifically complains maybe you needed the money to give to Matt, Mr. Commercial Groening, whose Life in Hell comic strip is occasionally amusing and consistently forgettable. Ironically, this letter ran next to a Life in Hell strip. Anyway, was the pulling of the strip related at all to this pilot?
So I also wanted to highlight, that's a great comment, but somebody also brought new R.P. Overmeyer facts to my attention on the Patreon. So these are things I did not discuss on the podcast. So he was a Vietnam vet from Texas who got his break making station break cards for The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So that is where he came from. Just like this, I guess, rags to riches or veteran civvy clothes to riches. I don't know.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that. You know, when I've ever pulled up some Johnny Carson reruns, those title cards are some of the most fun in it. This seems too creative for Johnny Carson, too hip for that musty old guy.
And apparently he lost most of his work in a house fire, so there are no Hollywood archives. But back to Michael Bentley, yeah, I didn't realize that how neck and neck Matt Groening and R.P. Overmeyer were in getting attention from the readers of these alt weeklies.
I wonder if there were feelings for him working on this pilot and going all right, I'm finally going to beat Matt Groening. His Simpsons thing ain't going to do shit compared to this. This is way bigger budget. It's unfortunate for him. I hope he found peace in his life, or maybe he always was friends with Matt Groening and there was never any jealousy.
Next time we talk to Matt Groening, we got to throw him some R.P. Overmeyer questions. This man is a mystery.
He'll give you the Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
And up next, we have questions and comments for the What a Cartoon movie for October, Fantastic Mr. Fox. And Blake R. says, I think people forget just how stacked of a year 2009 was for the animated category. Up was, of course, expected to walk away with the award considering it was a Best Picture nom, but being up against The Secret of Kells, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Princess and the Frog, and Coraline felt like a rare year where all forms of animation were represented. I wanted to see Fantastic Mr. Fox in theaters, but was sadly outvoted by family members who wanted to see the mocap Christmas Carol, which put 2 of them to sleep and gave 1 a headache. I still hold that against them 16 years on. And Blake R., you should. Hold that grudge until the grave. I think I will actually watch that Zemeckis Christmas Carol this year just to see what a horrifying sight it is.
Didn't you recently watch Polar Express, or am I thinking of?
Only for the first time last year.
Okay, well, so now you gotta watch the other Robert Zemeckis Christmas movie then. Sure.
Yeah, Polar Express is interesting. I mean, it's horrifying, but then you see how it's actually made, and it's not just. I mean, it is mocap, but then you see like the data the animators had to work with, and it's not a lot. So they're basically given like a skeleton with 4 points of articulation doing all the acting, and they have to basically animate on top of that. The magic trick at that point was just an illusion, I feel.
And that's a Jim Carrey Christmas movie, which also is reminding me that at the theater I saw, they are putting back into theaters his Grinch movie for the 25th anniversary. And there's also there was a Walmart ad and a McDonald's ad based around celebrating the live action Grinch nostalgia. And I was like, It makes me feel old. It makes me feel old.
I saw like some of those commercials where they're doing the same like makeup effects with people in the Grinch costumes. I'm thinking, man, I guess it's been 25 years, and I guess this is just like what Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was to us.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy, too, because the Chuck Jones one is perfect and ageless and timeless, I would think, which we did cover. And I saw The Grinch Who Stole Christmas in theaters. I saw that with my family. It was one of the 5 films tops I saw in a movie theater with my dad.
Yeah, I saw that with some residual Jim Carrey love as an 18-year-old, and that just kind of wiped it off the map.
Yes. Look, I can't take it away from Jim Carrey, though. He can do, in real life, the Grinch smile. It is an amazing magic trick. But anyway, enough about that. That has nothing to do with this episode. Also about Fantastic Mr. Fox, Adam King says, sorry to correct you, Henry, but if I had to guess, Kylie's species it would likely be the Dildephilus virginiana, the Virginia possum. This species is what most Americans, especially Texan Wes Anderson, would think of when they think of a possum, as it's the only species in North America and quite common in urban and suburban habitats. Kylie's physical characteristics match this species exactly. Interestingly, the UK has no endemic species of possum, and their beaver population is long extinct, which lends this movie a magical sense of being set in a nowhere place somewhere between rural Britain and the American heartland.
So Adam King is our possumologist.
I clearly failed in looking up, I thought I found a good possum species, but he makes quite a good argument for the Virginia opossum being Kylie's species, the one played by Simpsons writer Wally Wolodarski.
But up next, we have Talking Futurama, The Tip of the Zoidberg, and TL says, one of my favorite episodes from the Comedy Central era. Toonerific Tariq has just recently touched on this in an excellent video, but for such a caustic era for the show, they really did throw Zoidberg a bone during this time period. And yeah, I will say that one surprised me, and it surprised me it took them that long to get around to, how did Zoidberg fall in with this crew?
I need to check out that Tariq video because it's about the losers of animated sitcoms. And Zoidberg is obviously the loser of this show. He's the Bill Dauterive of this show. And I was very happy to see him finally get some dignity returned to him in this season. And we just recorded the one for Ghost in the Machines. And that one also is people respect Zoidberg in that episode too. He plays like a theremin and everybody's like, hey, you did a good job. Nobody's mean. Mara the Demon also says in that episode, I am coming out and planting my flag as the good dinosaur defender. It is not Pixar's best movie, but it is not on the same level as Cars 2. It is a small movie with some plot issues that does a good job of hammering home its central theme of nature is scary but amazing. I didn't see it at the time because of its reputation and only watched it a couple months ago and was frankly annoyed how much of a bad rap it got considering how low Pixar has sunk since then. I think it was just a result of Pixar burnout and it really got screwed despite being a really enjoyable movie. Sorry for commenting on the news section and not the actual episode.
It's okay. I mean, yeah, this was a time in which Pixar could seemingly do no wrong. So when they started to falter a little bit with I guess a mid movie, people were just up in arms about it. And then now, yes, they have become the sequel factory. We're getting more details about Toy Story 5.
Yes.
At this point, which I will see for research, but I really want to know how can you keep doing this?
Yeah, I know. They had their first teaser trailer for 5. They're working on The Incredibles 3. Like, it's what, and Inside Out 2 made ridiculous money as well. Like, it's not, the market is telling them to do it, but it makes you feel bad that Pixar is like only listening to the market. And too, that bit about The Good Dinosaur, I think people were feeling burnout because I think that was the first year there were 2 Pixar movies in the same year, right? It was the same year as Inside Out.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, it was, I guess, a packed year for Pixar.
A pickled pack of Pixar pictures.
I would say that if I could. So we're going to move on to Talking of the Hill, the episode Old Glory. And Joe Hodgson says, this episode is such a well-written one, but also one I'm conflicted on. I think it's a great measuring stick for how much Peggy one can handle. I'm able to laugh at Peggy, but she also aggravates me because no one calls her out on her bullshit to her face. And it's part of the humor of the show to be subtle about how wrong she is. She's almost cartoonishly narcissistic in this one. It's definitely as far as I want to see this character taken. I have seen every episode of the show, and I can't recall an episode that does push her beyond this one, so that's certainly a plus. I think if she got some comeuppance in the end, it would satiate me more, but they also wrote themselves into an impossible situation unless they were willing to upend the status quo and take her out of teaching this early on. No school would hire a substitute teacher caught writing an essay for her kid, though on the other hand, most school districts are often on the lookout for more subs these days, so maybe that wouldn't be as big of a barrier as expected. Yes, thank you, Joe Hudson. I know Peggy is a character that often pushes people away from the show. It's like, oh, I can't stand her. Frankly, I love her. I love when she's bad. I love when she's egotistical. It's just so funny to see a character that's so well defined and written so well, even if she's doing things that annoy you. And I'm interested, Joe Hodgson, if you will enjoy the season 4 finale, and where it feels like finally people are calling Peggy out on her behaviors. And ultimately, in the end, she is correct.
Yes.
But it is the show confronting this idea. So maybe you'll like that.
And as you said on that episode, like, it's a Peggy and Bobby adventure that like brings down Peggy to Bobby's level, and you see that she instantly like falls into childish behavior very easily. Yeah, I just rewatched the Full Metal Dust Jacket episode after Dan McGrath's passing, and that is a perfect Peggy episode because she like buys her way into a book club that she thinks she wants to be a member of, but it's like she's too fancy for the book club but hates the gun club, even though that is her actual clientele.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that one. That is one of my favorites of the last half of the show.
And our last comment is from New Killer Star, who says, relating to Henry's liquid death tangent, mango chainsaw is my favorite flavor. Also, fun fact about the dead billionaire flavor, it was originally called Armless Palmer, but I believe they got sued or something. I had not heard that.
I didn't know about this. Henry, are you chugging the liquid death right now in your Stanley Cup?
I actually do have cherry obituary in it at this very moment, yes.
R.I.P. to cherries. Now, some people, I think on the Discord or maybe on the Patreon, thought we were saying Stan Lee Cup, like the Spider-Man creator?
Oh, no.
Not involved. Although you have a Spider-Man sticker on your Stan Lee Cup, right?
Yes, yeah, it is the classic Steve Ditko Spider-Man logo. So it is kind of a Stan Lee Cup. Yes.
Well, now that my voice is husky, I can just do my impression easily. Like, oh boy, true believers, you're gonna love Spider-Man sour cherry in your Stan Lee Cup.
Speaking of liquid death, I was feeling a little embarrassed of my liquid death drinking just a teeny bit. I still enjoy it, and I have had this is a bubbly zero sugar thing. It's a sparkling water. I've had other sparkling waters. I don't like the flavors as much, but I didn't mention it because I didn't particularly like it. But I watched the Edgar Wright Running Man. In its dystopian future, they just have a commercial for liquid death in it, and that made me feel a little like a jerk for drinking liquid death.
That sounds like a dystopian present it's presenting because you're watching the movie now.
I know it. Here's the problem. That Running Man movie, I want to like it. And I really do like Edgar Wright movies. I do. He tried to make a Paul Verhoeven movie, but his problem is he's not cynical enough and he doesn't hate America enough. He puts hope into a thing. It's like he is so close to the book from what I've read. I did not read the original book, but I read a synopsis and it was like, oh yeah, all this stuff happens. And then he adds hopeful bullshit in it that like, oh, I get that you want this in 2025 to not be as hopeless, but fuck that. Like, it is hopeless. Shit sucks.
I have not read the book, so this is just pure ignorance on my part. But from what I've heard, people are like, well, the book is actually not that good. And the 80s version of the movie, even though it went in a wildly different direction, that's a fun movie that's worth watching. This book did not need to be adapted literally. This is just the vibe I'm getting from people who have seen the movie and who have read the book. I'm still on the fence if I want to see this movie or not. It sounds like maybe not. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have more to say about it next month.
And again, it's a Paul Verhoeven freak who loves Paul Verhoeven, and I love Starship Troopers so much. And RoboCop is my favorite movie. It's in my top 4 on Letterboxd. It makes me sad to see Edgar Wright, and a director I respect, try to make a Paul Verhoeven film and whiff hard on it. But hey, they do have an ad for Liquid Death in there, so they at least got sign off on Liquid Death for post-apocalyptic or horrible dystopian future ads.
Yeah, movie funding is very complicated these days, I guess.
Oh, and it fucking starts with like, oh, this is released by Paramount, a Skydance company. So you're just watching, like, the Ellisons are as evil as Richard Dawson ever was. You're watching their movie, so it also makes you, and that's not his fault. Like, it's
at this point, you cannot look at production logos. We just covered the Lego Movie. It's like presented by Steve Mnuchin.
Yes, yeah. If every evil person made everything, it's a bummer.
Just close your eyes until all 18 production logos are over. But yes, this has been another episode of Talk to the Audience. Next month, I swear, I will have overcome vacation poisoning. Henry's wrist will be functioning better than ever, I think.
I think so. I think the time we next record a podcast, I'll be almost having the cast off, and I should be slowly getting back to moving my wrist again. So maybe I'll be playing video games once more and be able to report on them.
And we have a really fun month to end out the year 2025. And please remember that we had to delay November's What a Cartoon Movie, so you'll be getting 2 of those in the month of December. Christmas at Pee-wee's Playhouse and My Neighbor Totoro. And along with that, the Patreon mini-series and regular Talking Simpsons. It's going to be another packed month as we celebrate another year of content, podcast content.
Yes. We hope you guys have a great holiday, however you celebrate it, and look forward to a fun December with all of y'all.
Yeah, so thanks so much for listening. We'll see you again next week for a new Talking Simpsons and next month for another episode of Talk to the Audience, and we will see you then.